Gilderoy Lockhart. Remember him? The dazzling smile, the cascading golden hair, the absolute master of, well, something. Let's dive deep into the man, the myth, the utterly fabricated legend that somehow charmed his way into Hogwarts. So, who was Gilderoy Lockhart? To the wider wizarding world, he was a superstar, a 5-time winner of Witch Weekly's Most Charming Smile Award, author of bestsellers like Magical Me and Voyages with Vampires. He arrived at Hogwarts like a conquering hero, greeted by adoring fans and a genuinely impressed Dumbledore. He was the epitome of success, fame, and effortless charisma, or so he wanted everyone to believe. Beneath the surface, of course, lay the truth. Lockhart was a fraud of spectacular proportions. His accomplishments were stolen, his bravery non-existent. He wasn't just stealing stories, he was stealing identities, erasing the very memories that defined the true heroes. It's a chilling thought, wrapped up in a comedic package. Could Lockhart, in his own bizarre way, be seen as a victim of his own crippling insecurities, trapped in a cycle of deceit he couldn't escape? It's an ironic twist considering the victims he created. His charm was undeniable, a genuine talent he possessed. It's what allowed him to get close to the real heroes in the first place. He weaponized his charisma for personal gain. He was a master manipulator, using flattery and his public image to disarm others. His reliance on memory charms wasn't just a tool, it was an addiction, a quick fix to make inconvenient truths disappear, leaving him free to spin his glorious tales. This constant performance must have been exhausting, the effort required to maintain such a complex web of lies, to remember which lie you told to whom. He represents a specific type of villainy, not one of malice or cruelty in the traditional sense, but one of profound selfishness and disregard for others' lives and memories. His charm made him dangerous. He wasn't overtly threatening like Voldemort or Snape, but his actions had devastating consequences for the people whose lives he erased. He was a master of presenting a polished, desirable image, a skill perhaps more relevant than ever in our own celebrity-obsessed world. His reliance on memory charms wasn't just a tool for crime, it was a way to manage his own anxiety, to control the narrative, to ensure he remained the hero. He was a prisoner of his own fame, forced to keep up the act, unable to step off the merry-go-round of deceit without losing everything he had built. The irony is that the very thing he used to build his fame, the stories of others, ultimately led to his downfall when he couldn't perform the magic required to steal one last story. He was a man who understood the power of narrative, but failed to understand the power of truth, or the resilience of reality against magical manipulation. Lockhart's carefully constructed persona wasn't impenetrable. There were moments, fleeting but telling, when the mask slipped, revealing the terrified man underneath. Remember the Cornish pixies incident? His utter panic, his inability to control even minor creatures, his desperate plea for Harry, Ron and Hermione to handle it. This wasn't just incompetence, it was a complete breakdown of his expert image. He was exposed as utterly useless in a real magical situation. His reaction wasn't to try and learn or improve, but to deflect, to blame others, to maintain the illusion of being in control even as chaos erupted around him. His fear was palpable when faced with genuine danger. Like the Chamber of Secrets, the bravado vanished, replaced by trembling hands and a desperate desire to escape. He relied on others constantly. He expected Harry and Ron to handle the pixies. He tried to abandon Ginny and Ron in the chamber, leaving Harry to face the monster alone. His reliance wasn't just practical, it was psychological. He needed others to step in when his magic failed, to maintain the illusion that someone competent was present. His interactions with Snape are particularly revealing. Snape saw right through him, and Lockhart's discomfort and thinly veiled hostility show how much he hated being challenged or exposed. He couldn't handle criticism or skepticism. Anyone who doubted him was a threat to his carefully constructed reality. His inability to perform basic defensive magic wasn't just funny, it was terrifying. He was supposed to be teaching children how to protect themselves, and he couldn't even protect himself from pixies. This incompetence wasn't just a character quirk, it was a direct consequence of his fraud. He spent his time stealing stories instead of learning magic. His reliance on memory charms wasn't just for the victims. It was perhaps a way to manage his own cognitive dissonance, to forget the uncomfortable truth of his own inadequacy. His desperation became more apparent as the year progressed. The pressure of teaching, of being expected to perform real magic, wore him down. His moments of panic weren't just comedic, they were tragic. They showed a man utterly out of his depth, terrified of being found out. He was a master of presentation but lacked any substance, a beautiful empty shell polished to a blinding shine. His interactions with the other teachers highlight his isolation. They saw through him, or at least suspected the truth, and he was an object of ridicule and contempt. He was a celebrity who craved adoration but earned only scorn from those who knew him best. Another layer of irony in his sad tale. His self-delusion might have been his only defense against the crushing weight of his own lies. It's easier to believe your own hype than face the truth of your failures. He was a walking, talking embodiment of the Peter Principle, promoted far beyond his actual competence, but in his case the promotion was based on lies. And in the end, his own magic, the very tool of his deceit, turned on him, shattering the facade completely and leaving him lost in the ruins of his own mind. The climax of Lockhart's story is a masterpiece of ironic tragedy. Cornered in the Chamber of Secrets, expected to be the hero he claimed to be, he crumbled. His plan wasn't to fight the monster, it was to obliviate Harry and Ron, steal their story of rescuing Ginny, and emerge as the sole hero, a final desperate act of fraud. He chose the weakest, most vulnerable targets, 2 young boys, for his final act of deceit. It highlights the depths of his cowardice and moral bankruptcy. But his wand, damaged by Ron, backfired spectacularly. The memory charm intended for Harry and Ron hit Lockhart himself. The man who built his life on erasing the memories of others had his own memory erased. The ultimate cruel irony. His downfall wasn't a heroic sacrifice or a noble defeat. It was a pathetic self-inflicted wound, a direct consequence of his own fraudulent actions. His reliance on memory charms wasn't just a crime. It was his escape route from reality. When reality became too dangerous, he tried to magic it away. His inability to face consequences wasn't just a character flaw. It was the driving force behind his entire career. Every lie was a way to avoid facing the music. He was a man who lived in a world of fantasy, and when that fantasy collided with reality, he shattered. His story ends not with a bang, but with a whimper, a confused smile and a perpetually empty gaze. A tragic end for a man who was perhaps already empty inside. He was a man who ran from reality his entire life, and in the end, reality caught up to him in the most devastating way possible. His fate is a reminder that magic, while powerful, cannot ultimately shield you from the consequences of your own choices and character flaws. He was a man who couldn't face himself, and in the end he didn't have to, because there was nothing left to face.